Hey everyone, it's Ann the Stamp Maven. If you're here for my Facebook Live, we'll get started in just a minute. If you're watching my video on my YouTube channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here to learn my fun fold card and some tips and techniques along the way. Please do subscribe to my channel, and if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to be yours. All my info is below, so you'll be able to contact me. Let's get started. I'm going to just flip my camera around here quickly, and then we will get started on our project. So, first thing I wanted to show you, just give you a little tip. You hopefully saw this card on my blog last week. It is a slimline card. You can kind of see it here. You can also do slimline cards vertically. A lot of times people mail them using just regular business envelopes. Well, look at this great envelope here. Stampin' Up! Now sells envelopes for slimline cards. We've got in the pack, you get white, gray, and you also get the soft succulent. So let me turn down, I think my ringtone is still on, and I want to turn that down so you don't hear that going. So I wanted to tell you that about the slimline card envelopes that are in our January to June mini catalog. Here are a couple samples of the card type that I'm going to be showing you tonight, the Fun Fold. You can see they look very different, but the fold is still the same. This way is vertical, this way it's just horizontal. Now, I want to show you, call your attention here to the inside and also onto this background and the border here. Before we actually dive in and you watch me make tonight's card, I wanted to show you how I did these areas on my card. It's really kind of fun, and you may not have seen this technique before, so I just wanted to be sure that I show it to you. So, how I created this border is I've got this little background stamp that is part of our Sweet Conversation stamp set, and it's this image right here. So what I did is I inked it up using my Blushing Bride, and then I just tap, 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 tap all over in the same spot. And then I just kept going around my border of my card. As you can see here, you can make this border in as far as you want, or you can just tap, 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 and just go lightly around your edge to just give it a little texture. Now, on this part right here, it's Blushing Bride cardstock, and so what I did on my whole piece, I did the exact same thing. So you're just ink up, tap, 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 ink up, tap, 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 and you just keep going over in the same spot all over until you get the look that you want. Isn't that cool? And I'm going to be showing you more on the card that we're actually making together tonight. This part right here, it's a heart, I just did using the scallop punch. You get one in the set that's a scallop and then just a regular edged punch. But I think this is just such a great Valentine card, and it's so easy. You're not going to believe how easy it is. Now, just drop that. Here's one more sample I wanted to show you. This is done as the one we're going to do tonight with the Friendly Hello stamp set and this beautiful designer series paper. If you didn't know, right now Stampin' Up! Is having our January and February celebration. So this gorgeous paper you cannot buy, but you can earn the paper and stamp set for free when you place a $100 order. Now, I use this piece here, which has the pool party and the black and the basic white. I stamped the bird image in smoky slate. Then I colored in with my Stampin' Blends, used the same technique I just showed you here. This little hello is from the Tropical Chic stamp set. I think I've mentioned to you all below, I just love the word hello on my cards. And actually, in this Friendly Hello bundle, it's got this great one here. I was going to use that on my card tonight, but it's a little bit big for this fun fold. And then the flower and leaves that come in the stamp set really are the same ones that are on many of the pieces of the designer series paper and also on this bird. And I just thought this turned out to be such a pretty card. All right, are you ready to see the one we're going to make? Well, here we go. What do you think of this card? It is stamped in fresh freesia, which is one of our new in colors. And of course, since it's purple, I am all over it. So what we are going to do, guys, we are going to start with a piece of 11 by 4 1/4 inch Sahara sand cardstock. If you don't use Sahara sand, you might give it another look. You know, this color, when you pair it with other Stampin' Up! Colors, it makes those colors just pop, and the Sahara sand itself looks a little bit different each time you pair it with another color. So I've got that 11 by 4 1/4 piece, and I'm going to score it at 5 1/2. Now you want to make sure you're scoring, not cutting right there. Next thing, I'm going to slide it over, and I am now going to cut at 3 inches. We're going to take that piece and put it aside, and I'm also going to move my cutter aside because I've got my other pieces. So I'm going to take this piece that we just cut, and I like to come in with my bone folder and give this a good crease. Now, as you can see here, the inside of my card is just a piece of 5 1/4 by 4 inch basic white cardstock. And we're going to do some stamping on the inside of that. So I have just got this image, which is the flower images right here. And I like, when I'm stamping images on my card that are about this size, I like to stamp like either 3 big images or 3 sets. Now, You'll notice this block I'm using. It is contraband. Don't tell anyone. My friend that is cutting some paper for me, she's got some of my blocks, so I had to pull out my contraband. So I'm going to ink up my stamp in my fresh freesia little tongue twister, and I'm going to stamp it right up here on my card. Then I'm going to come over here. You know what? I'm not real happy with that image. So I'm going to come back and we're going to do that again, because one of the best things of Stampin' Up! Cardstock is it has two sides. Did you guys know that? Ha! Isn't that fabulous? I like that one better. Okay, now I'm going to come over and I'm going to do another image about right here. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to just try to get that flower. Okay, so now I've got my flowers. I'm going to bring in my Granny Apple Green. Now, in this stamp set, let me bring it back in, there are several different leaves. These two are a kind of a large and a small, more solid. This one is more of an outline image. So you've got a great choice there. So what I'm going to do is just ink this up, and I'm going to just start putting my leaves in different places here. I'm going to stamp once, and then I'm going to stamp right here without re-inking. And you notice the way I've done my inking and stamping, you get a little bit of texture on this leaf, which I really like. I think that is just a great look. All right, so let's come over here, and then I'm going to just put one more here. Now, I've got the small leaf on here too, so now we are going to do some small leaves. And I just kind of do a random amount. I don't even pay attention that it's exactly how a real flower would look. I think that's part of the fun when you're stamping, that you just create and make it how you want it to be. Okay, so there I've got all my fun leaves on the inside. Now, you'll notice on this card, I just put them in the corner here, but I wanted to show you, if you wanted to, you could so easily just stamp it all over the place and then get a birthday stamp, which I've got here out of the Hey Birthday Chick stamp set, which is this little stamp set right here, if you haven't seen that. And I'm going to just come right in here and I'm going to stamp this right here. And there I've got my happy birthday. So I'm going to take this now and I'm going to put it down with my adhesive. And of course, you're not even going to see where I made my little boo-boo, and I doubt the person that I'm going to send this to is even going to rip it up and look and make sure I didn't make any boo-boos. I don't think they'll do that. Do you? Now, we're going to stamp this part. But remember, we chopped off this part here at 3 inches, and this is going to be where we're going to stamp this part. So let's do that now. And I'm going to stamp it just a little bit differently than I did this one, just because I want to show you it really doesn't matter how you put your images on this card. Okay, and then down here, I'm going to just do one flower here. I do want to come back in with my leaves. And while I'm stamping, let me just remind you, if you are watching this live on Facebook and you have any questions, please put them in the comments and I will answer them after our live is done. I've kind of found, I've been doing these for several years now, and most people like me to answer them after the fact rather than answering them during the live. So hopefully that will work for you all as well, and I will just be thrilled to answer them afterwards. Okay, there's that one, and I want to stamp off here and just do a couple more, 2, 4, 7. I like to stamp odd numbers of things on my cards, and I use, you'll notice if you stamp with me a lot, I use odd numbers of embellishments. I've heard from an artist friend of mine that when you use odd numbers, it's a little more appealing to the eye. All right, now, so there's our main image. Now, can you see along here? I have done a little bit of that, what I'll call tapping technique. And we're going to do it again right here. I'm using the Petal Pink ink, and I'm using this little stamp. Let me show you. It's right here in our Hello Friend. Most of our stamp sets have something like that. We do have several that are just background textures. So I think you will find plenty of them. I opened the wrong pad, so let me open the right one. Okay, so again, we're going to ink it up, and we don't want to do this little tapping technique over our flowers. So we're just going to go right around the edge. And it's a little hard to see it on the camera, but if you were doing this technique in your own craft room, you'd be able to see it very easily. And so I'm just going down here. I'm going to do in the corner right here where I don't have that flower stamped. And then I'm going to just go right along here. And you know, you can tap it like probably 6, 7 times in the same spot. And depending how big your image is, it'll take a little bit longer to make it all the way around your card, but I love the effect that it makes. What do you think? Do you like that? Let's just get this corner right here. And I like the subtle colors when I'm doing this, which is why I chose the petal pink. So now can you see that a little bit easier along here? Now, you could also, if you wanted to, you could put embellishments in the center of these flowers. You could take a Stampin' Blend and even do the petal pink. As a matter of fact, let's do that so you can see what I'm talking about. I didn't do it on my original card, but just you can go around here and just tap, 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 tap with your point. And my business line is ringing, but we're just going to ignore that. And that just gives it a little more pop, let's call it that. So now I'm going to take that layer here that I trimmed off, and we're going to pop it on the card. And you'll notice one thing, a little tip to tell you, when you use your Stampin' Blends, they will bleed, even just that tiny bit. So make sure you've got a piece of scrap paper underneath it, or you know what I use a lot is the cardboard that comes in our designer series paper. Now, you'll notice here, this is my Granny Apple Green, and I have started that same little tapping technique. So let's complete it right here on the card, that same stamp. And you notice it looks totally different on this background stamp than it did on the background piece than it did here. And you can keep going and make it dark. I like to turn my paper while I'm doing it because you get just a really cool background. So if you only have a couple of stamp sets, or even if you have 1,000, just get out those little extra stamps like this one and this one that come in your set and play around with them. All right, so what we're going to do now is go ahead and use our Stampin' Seal. I love this adhesive. Have you gotten a chance to play with it? The trick, some of my customers didn't like it in the beginning, but then I gave them some tips to use it. And my main tip for you is you barely push on it when you're running it. And if you do a little flick with your wrist at the end, that helps it not stick when you're advancing. If it does stick, grab your silicone mat and just run it on there, and then it will advance more, no problem. Okay, now we are going to take our piece, and for this, I'm actually going to use my liquid glue, and I'll show you why in a second here. Okay, let's see. Let me pull off that little end. Sometimes it gets a little stubborn, and you just got to get that off. Okay, so we're only going to put our liquid glue, or if I had used seal, we're only going to use it, put it on that part. And the reason that I use that liquid glue is when I'm putting it down to make sure I get it positioned where I want, the liquid glue is a little more forgiving than the Stampin' Seal. If you get the Stampin' Seal down, more than likely you'll have to rip it up, and you can do it if you're carefully, and the way I teach my customers is just to peel up one end and breathe under it, and then do it carefully around, and it won't rip. Okay, our card is almost done. What I did was I took another greeting from our Hey Birthday Chick, the Let's Celebrate You, and we're going to just pop this on the card. You can put it wherever you like. I'm going to put it this time up in this corner, and I am going to use a couple Stampin' Dimensionals here on it to just give it a little lift and a little pop. And we're just going to put it right here. I used the Tasteful Labels dies to punch this out to actually cut it with my Big Shot. That, guys, is my most favorite set of dies. So there you go. There's my original card, and here is the sample that I made. Again, you can turn it this way if you like. But what I love, love, love about this fancy fold is it uses, for your base, one sheet of cardstock, and then when you cut it, it actually uses a half a sheet of cardstock to start. Then when you cut off that 3-inch piece, you use that to be your little fold there. And then you're just using your basic white and then a color. Now, of course, you can use your designer series paper if you like when you're making the cards. Just plan, play around with it. Kind of just bring in your style to it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this fun fold, and I will see you next week, Monday night, live, and check out all of my videos on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to do so.